This is the 3 secrets to become a lights out shooter. And before we even get going, Rudy, I'll start with you. Let's just share one thing. There's going to be people on this call who don't know who any of us are. They're probably seeing PGC for the very first time. We're coming to the end of our summer, running over 100 camps across the country. But Rudy, give the 30-second version of what you're doing in basketball and what you're most excited about for this next hour.
Wow. Appreciate you, Kyle. Thanks for the intro. And yeah, my name is Rudy Bentley. I'm currently on our basketball development team within PGC. So I help edit and update our curriculum throughout the year. And I direct our courses, specifically the scoring college and point guard college courses in the summer, as well as our shooting colleges in the fall. I also assist one of our other PGC directors, Sam Allen, here in Atlanta, Georgia, running an AAU and player development program here in the Atlanta area. So that's what I'm currently doing, and I'm really excited just about, one, getting to hang out with everybody here. It's a lot of people here, about 592 and counting, it looks like, and just excited to talk shooting, a topic that I really love and something that I think is really, really valuable, especially in today's game. So excited to get on here and share some knowledge with everybody.
Awesome. Dustin, over to you, same thing.
Yeah, my name is Dustin Albert, been with PGC for about 10 years now. Director with us for our scoring college as well as our shooting colleges. When I'm not doing PGC, I help out at an agency called Tandem Sports and Entertainment. I help out with the NBA pre-draft process. And then prior to that, I was a college head coach and played as well. Yeah, I'm hyped, man. Hyped to dive in, hyped to help out any way I can. So, and anytime I can spend time with Rudy and Kyle, it's a good day.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. And I'll get some snaps to that. If you are new to PGC, we use snaps in the form of a celebration, acknowledgement, recognition. And I'll close it off with just sharing who I am and Kyle Kazuda. I came to PGC in 2010. I played basketball at the Division I level, played basketball at the Division II level. I direct our camps around the country. I direct our shooting colleges around the country. Been doing that for about 5 years. And I'm most excited about today, mainly because it's the only reason I played basketball in college was that I could shoot. As Dustin and Rudy and anybody that knows me well knows that I can do a finger roll, but my hand never really gets close to the backboard, even though I really want to dunk. And so I really developed the ability to shoot over my career, and it was the equalizer. And like Ronald Norred, who Rudy, you got a chance to interview, who's an NBA coach, a PGC grad, a little over a year ago, he said, if you can shoot, a coach will find a spot on the floor for you at any level, because the shooter is so rare. And that's one of the things I'm most excited to talk about. So we're going to talk about the first secret to becoming a great shooter, and it really revolves around how you narrow your focus. And Rudy, I'll pass it over to you to get us started.
Love it, man. I'm really excited. To kind of dive into this topic as we talked about, what makes shooters great, what makes shooters special. How do people perform and, shoot well at whatever level they're at? And I think a lot of it just comes down to you can't be great at everything. And too many times when I watch players train, I'll just sit in and observe. The number one thing that I see and one of the biggest issues is that they go out there and they shoot a lot of different types of shots from a lot of different spots. And there's really not a rhyme or reason why. But then when I go watch them play, they're very specialized. And they have certain roles within their team, places on the floor they catch the ball, types of shots that they get, whether it be off of a ball screen or off of an isolation or off of a pin down, off of just a simple catch and shoot off a driving kick. And I think, gosh, I feel bad for some players because they really are putting the time in, they're putting the work in, all the blood, sweat, and tears in the gym, and they're just not seeing the results simply because they're, essentially becoming a jack of all trades and a master of none. So the first thing I would just say is like, gosh, just aim small, miss small. If you focus on one thing and you really get deep into that one thing, that can really help you, produce more in games. And so when I think about, talking to athletes that I help train and things like that, just a couple of questions that I kind of, throw at them right away is just like, what's your role? What do you do in your teams? And then what are your biggest opportunities based on where you're at right now? You already know what you're good at, but where do you struggle against what type of teams and what type of defenses and what situations, do you maybe, hit a brick wall? And when you start finding these things out, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can just focus there. What do I get? Where do I get my shots off? Where do I get the catches? If you focus getting more catches, more shots from those spots, all of a sudden you'll actually produce more in games. And that's at the end of the day what we want, right? We don't care about how good we are on a Dr. Dish. We care about how good we are with the lights on a Friday night. And so that's kind of where I want to start. And Dustin, I'll pass it over to you on that one. I have a couple other thoughts, but I know you got some gold to share as well.
Hey, and Dustin,
I'm excited. Yeah, go ahead.
before you dive in, to everyone listening, there's actually a Q&A button in the Zoom as a feature. So if you have a question throughout, hit the Q&A and type your question in there, and I'll monitor that throughout. And we'll answer some of those questions either throughout or near the end as we go on. But Dustin, back over to you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think first and foremost, any realm of the game of basketball, to be the uncommon amongst the uncommon, I think simplicity is the ultimate sophistication in this game. And I think as a shooter, we've all been around great shooters. I think discipline equals freedom. And we'll unpack what that discipline needs to be around specifically. But first and foremost, it's having unbelievable alignment with your role on your team. It's the same thing with a coach of players. It's unbelievable alignment with the shots we want most. I've found that a lot of times a coach's offense will outperform the abilities of their players. And it's because they haven't aligned what shots they get the most in their offense and what patterns they see the most. Being really lucky and being around a lot of high-level players these last couple of months, the two biggest things that I've noticed with skill acquisition at that level is pattern recognition and spatial awareness. And the pattern recognition is knowing when to shoot and where to shoot. And I think for players on the call, what's unbelievably valuable is doing a SWOT analysis for yourself, which is SWOT. It's, as a shooter, what is your strength? What is your weakness? What is an opportunity for growth? And what is a threat to your game? SWOT. And just by answering those questions and possibly doing it with your staff, you get unbelievable alignment with not only where the shots you should be shooting are, but where you're best on the floor when you shoot those shots. And I think that's a really good place to start.
So, hey, Rudy, to ask a question, and then Rudy or Dustin, either one take this, and I'm looking in the Q&A, and I'll mold a few of these questions together. So here's the first one. Let's talk about a more beginner player, and there's a couple college players or more college players. So we have people from 39 states on the call. And so if you have a beginner player and someone who's been doing it for a long time, beginner player, where do they start on narrowing their focus? One of the secrets, they have no idea anything about shooting, okay, number one. And then if you would compare that to a college player, narrow your focus, where do they start?
Yeah, I'll start off, and then Dustin, if you want to add in. I think both of them, honestly, it's not even about age. I think this is where you start, and it's on catch and shoot. I think your catch and shoot, specifically being able to shoot from the 3-point line nowadays, catch and shoot is both your barrier to entry at higher levels, and it's the foundation for the future. So if you watch great shooters, in the NBA, you look at the Kyrie Irvings and Steph Currys, if you actually pause their shot on their catch and shoot from the moment they get the ball to their set point, we talk a lot about that, at our shooting college, your set point, your feet, your hands, and your eyes. If you look at their set point at the bottom of their set right before they go into their shot, if you freeze it on the catch and shoot and you freeze it on an off the dribble shot, they're identical. And so that's what we're talking about, like the foundation for the future. Whatever you do off the dribble, if you don't have the same foundation as you do off the catch, you're going to be missing the mark. You're going to be off balance. And so working catch and shoot first to find your true core foundation, your footwork, your hands, your eyes, and build it from the ground up, then you're going to be missing the mark and you're going to hit those brick walls. And honestly, a lot of players that play at really high levels, they still hit that brick wall eventually because they skipped steps when they were younger. Those players that were just so good, so athletic, so talented that they got away with skipping that catch and shoot, or they never got forced into that role because they were always a primary creator on their offense. And you see it all the time with high school going to college and college going to pros. They make that transition where all of a sudden they're not the primary creator on their team anymore. They have to play off the ball. They have to finish advantages instead of create them. And if you don't have a solid catch and shoot foundation, that's where you see a lot of players that are in that transition phase, they struggle because they don't have the catch and shoot foundation to get them access onto the court at that next level. Sure, they might be able to handle the ball, and sure, there might be decent defenders and they can finish at the rim. But if they're not the main person on the team that's going to be creating, well, then you can't play with those players. So they're going to be creating advantages, creating double teams, triple teams, kicking out to you. And if you can't knock it down, they're going to find somebody else who will. And so that's where the foundation, regardless of age and stage, I think starting and getting elite on catch and shoot threes, that is the foundation for all good shooters.
Elite on catch and shoot threes. Yeah, Dustin, what you got?
That was so beautifully said, and 1,000% to build on that. In any realm of the game of basketball, you're trying to put pressure on the rim. So if rim pressure is king, corner threes at volume is queen, regardless of the age and stage of the athlete. So if you are playing in college or you're a freshman going to the collegiate level, first and foremost, you got to be able to hit from the corners, because corner threes gets you more minutes. And the way offenses are designed nowadays, whether it's I'm attacking off the bounce, I'm hitting somebody on the roll, I'm creating an offense to put pressure near the rim area. If pressure at the rim happens, the spray out to the corner is wide open. And so being able to hit those with fast feet, like Rudy is saying, is everything. So that's first. The second stage is, after you can show that you can hit from the corner, scoring throughout the fluidity of your offense. So whatever your offense is, you're running pin downs, tight curls, flares, whatever the offense for you is, you need to show the ability to score within those confines, because that's why you're running the offense. As coaches, we play players we trust, and we give a lot of trust to shooters. And so after you've shown corner shooting and you can show offensive shooting, I call it, the next stage is called Ricky shooting. Which is a screen that high-level teams run for shooters. It's like when Clay comes off a screen and they immediately set him another screen. And so a Ricky shooter is someone who a set is ran just for that person. And then finally, the last type of shooter is a shot clock closer. So someone you give the ball to end shot clocks. And what I found is your shot selection is the mirror to your culture. And so you have some guys that think they're one role and they should be shooting other shots. But like Rudy is saying, and what he said so beautifully, everyone needs to be able to show the ability to hold space and catch and shoot from the corners first, and then you build from there.
Hey, and Rudy, you want to give one more point on this one?
Yeah, I think just to kind of sum up that initial point of the idea of being a master of one, right? That idea, that secret, if you will. We just essentially talked about a lot of things, but if you talk about this, if you're trying to get on the floor, I know a lot of players that come to these, they're trying to find their way on the floor. It's that barrier to entry. You're going to be moving on to a new role on a team this year. Maybe you were a 6th or 7th person coming off the bench last year. Maybe you graduated and you're going to your freshman year in college, whatever the case is, where you're moving up levels. Now the players, you're not the big fish in a small pond. You're trying to find your way in. The barrier to entry to be on the floor on any team is a 3-and-D player. You have to be able to guard your position, and you have to be able to make threes, specifically corner threes. And so you have all these different shots from all the spots on the floor. If you go, from all the shots and you narrow it down, you could go 3-pointers. But then if you go and you want to narrow it even deeper, then you can go corner threes. And honestly, especially at the high school and even in the college levels, if you want to get even more narrow than that, left corner threes. Why? Most players and most offenses start on the right side of the floor. They're right-hand dominant, which means they drive with their right hand. Help's going to come from the left corner, and they're going to tag from the left corner. And so that's going to be the most frequent kick out three that you're probably going to get in the game of basketball. And so if you want to talk about just aiming small and missing small, where do you want to get a majority of your shots? Well, not just anything off the dribble. You want catch and shoot threes, not just catching threes. Go push to the corners and get really good in both corners. And then even more so than that, can you narrow it even more and get really, really good at those left corner threes above all else? Just to narrow it down, if you can do that, that's a starting point to start to build out your workouts. Make sure that you're having more shots from those two areas, the corners, and maybe even the left corner a little bit more than anything else that you shoot.
So let's close off the first secret, which is narrowing your training focus. And Rudy and Dustin, I'm going to put both of you on the spot here to give everybody watching one action. So if it's a coach watching right now, they could give this action to their player. But within 1 week, what should a player, in 1 to 2 sentences, I'm going to challenge you to be brief, in 1 to 2 sentences, what's one action they should take to narrow their training focus?
Yeah, you want me to go first? I hope that doesn't count as part of my sentence.
That's number one.
Just a really simplicity part of it. Ready? Don't miss short. Don't miss dominant. Don't miss in the same place twice. Short misses are the devil in the game of basketball because they lead transition going the other way. The best shooters in the world get the ball to the back rim.
Rudy?
Master the boring. Shoot more threes.
And I want to give one too as a third one. I want to build off what you said, Rudy. That's not part of my first or second sentence. Okay, but here it is. Master catch and shoot shots. And let me give two-ish sentences, and then I'll transition us to the next one. which is, and Rudy said it before, like as you get to higher and higher levels, there's better creators oftentimes. That's what happened for me. I was a high school player. I handled the ball a lot. I got to college. My coach said, Kyle, stop creating. You're the best 3-point shooter, catch and shoot. And so the moment I put the ball on the ground, my percentages dropped. So what does that look like in your training? Well, tomorrow, instead of doing 50 between the leg step back jumpers, how about you do 50 off the catch 15 feet from 5 spots, 50 off the catch threes from 5 spots, and you'll start to improve immediately. And that's one of the secrets. Back to what Dustin said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So let's go to the second secret.
Real quick, sorry, I just saw there's a couple of questions. Somebody asked what Dustin's third point was. It was don't miss short, don't miss dominant, and don't miss the same way twice, right, Dustin?
Yeah, and dominant means lefty miss left, righties miss right. It's a great way to gauge. Our big thing is toes down, wrist down when shooting the basketball. So the toes hit the floor, like we always fight for faster feet, and you got to snap the wrist down consistently, and that allows you to get the ball to the back rim. We'll talk about why in a little bit, but.
Yeah, Rudy, thanks for catching that. And there's a ton of questions coming in the Q&A, and I'll continue to monitor that. If the question's relevant to the secret, I'll bring it up. If it's not, I'll save it to the end, and we can rifle off a couple of questions at the end. So keep putting your questions in there. Here's the second secret, and it's why thinking like a mad scientist can help you knock down more shots. Why thinking like a mad scientist can help you knock down more shots. And so, Rudy, I'll pass it over to you to talk a little bit about this secret and the importance of measuring.
This one changed everything for me. It really did. So just full transparency, one of the reasons why I love teaching shooting is because when I was younger, I was so bad at it. And I really had to learn how to become a great shooter because you can't see it here in the video, but I'm only about 5'7", 5'8" on a good day. Depends on what pair of Nikes I'm rocking on that given day. But I couldn't shoot it very well. I was one of the best creators on my team all the way growing up. And my sophomore year in high school, I hit a brick wall and I shot 19% from the 3-point line. For those of you that study statistics, it was really not good. I was actually the worst statistical 3-point shooter in my entire high school conference. And so I was frustrated at that because I was getting up a lot of shots, but I just really wasn't confident. And I had a huge confidence barrier where I felt like I couldn't shoot. I didn't think I could shoot. I didn't want to catch and shoot. And a lot of that reason just came down to the fact that I hadn't proven to myself that I could. And after coming to PGC, one of the things that I learned was that this idea that measuring things can help, and nothing can really help your confidence like seeing the numbers improve and actually proving to yourself with statistical data that you're better. So I started to just track and measure my shots. And just a quick secret, I'll just throw it here into the chat. But this is essentially what I did to start to study and measure mine like a mad scientist. And so I would shoot in small sets. I usually shot in sets of 10. I had goals and consequences for each set. And then the consequence would increase with each additional miss away from my goal. So for example, catch and shoots. I was going to go shoot 100 catch and shoots every day right after practice. So whenever practice got done, I'd shoot 100 catch and shoots before I leave. I'd shoot 10 from the 5 different spots on the floor. I'd go all the way around and then all the way back. If I had a coach that would stay after, I'd have him rebound for me. If not, then I'd shoot it by myself. But essentially, I shoot in small sets, and my goal was 7 out of 10. So I go shoot 10. All right, I got 6. All right, for every one that I was off, I was in season, so I wasn't going to do anything crazy, but I was going to do, 5 push-ups for every miss. It was more of like an irritation than it was a punishment. Just like if I didn't get there, it was just something that locked my mind in. And so I did, 5 push-ups if I had 6. But if I got 5, that's 2 away from my goal. So I hit 10 push-ups. If I'd hit 4, I do 15 push-ups. I'm 3 away from my goal. And so what it did was it added pressure, but it also allowed me to measure. So at the end of that workout, I took 100 threes, and let's say I hit 73. Oh, okay. I shot 73% today. And so the round number of 100 was easy for me because I wanted to know my exact percentage, and I didn't feel like doing math. So that was how I started it. And, over time, when I first started, I was about 35% catch and shoot unguarded in an empty gym. And so as I went on and I saw it go to 37, 39, 41, 47, 51, you transition that to 4 years later, my sophomore year in high school to sophomore year in college. My sophomore year in college in preseason, I tracked everything in that 6-week span. I shot 88% from the 3-point line, catch and shoot unguarded. And that season, I shot 53% from the 3-point line over the course of my sophomore year in college. So I went 19% in high school sophomore year to 53% sophomore year in college in that 4-year span. And the reason why I think I was able to make that leap was because I started to track and measure every shot I took in my workouts. It was just the easiest way for me to actually see the data go. And then when I got in games, I could be more confident. And I didn't have that feeling where I shoot my first one, and if I made it, I'd shoot again. And if I missed it, I wouldn't. I just knew that no matter what, I knew statistically I was a good shooter. And I believed that. And that confidence came from that preparation, but also that measurement. And so attacking it like a scientist is a great way to start to build that confidence as a shooter.
And Dustin, can I tee you up on one thing? You probably had a different thought that you're going to go, but the first thing is, a few years ago, we were teaching a PGC camp together, and we were co-teaching it, and you had a ton of papers, like a few hundred pieces of paper, and you were looking at your notes before you went on to present. And I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's a lot of notes. And then you looked at me and you said, I actually don't even really need these. It's just for my confidence. Like the visual cue was for your confidence. And so it's a little bit of a different
idea.
my guy. Okay, perfect. Right. Maybe get a binder, make it a little more organized, maybe something like that. But can you just talk about that for a moment to build off what Rudy said about the confidence piece?
Yeah, well, it's so beautifully put. You teed that up really well. But I've been lucky enough to speak for a long time, and I love speaking. And I found that as human beings, just like in shooting, your confidence is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. And as people, we tend to become what we think of ourselves. And usually, if the narrative, just like the game bends in the direction of our strongest habit, our mind bends in the direction of our strongest thought, the one we feed the most. And if you consistently decide who you want to be and win it with little votes every day, you get really good at it. There's an author that we all love named James Clear, and he says, start with who you want to be, shift to how that person would act, and shrink to control what you can control. And that's how you become a great shooter as well. Sorry. My bad. Start with who you want to be, shift to how that person would act, and shrink to control what you can control. And just unpacking that, like as a basketball player, it's all about starting. Like the end of the game, you look at the end of the journey. What do you want to be remembered as a shooter? Let that be the thing that guides you. Let that be your North Star, because that'll align your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And now, instead of going out with your friends and not getting in the gym, you'll get in the gym because you've casted a version of who you want to be. That's start with who you want to be. Shift, like think about the best shooter you've ever met. Shift to how that person acts and moves, and you'll start acting and being like that person. And then you become the uncommon amongst the uncommon. And then finally shrink to control what you can control. The hard part is, as basketball players, that which angers you owns you. And what I've seen of like Kyle, he's one of my best friends. He's the greatest shooter I've seen in a long time. I've met better shooters, but he's unbelievable.
Name one.
Yeah, stop. But what Kyle does so well is Kyle has this ability to select his amnesia. When he's making shots, he's very loud. When he's missing shots, he moves on to the next play really quickly. Whereas me, if I miss a couple shots, I'm living in that headspace over and over and over again. And so basically, when you praise those things, like that which gets praised gets repeated. It's all about shooting as well. So that's from the confidence side. Yeah. Thanks for teeing me up.
No, that was good, Dustin. And I'll share one final thought, and then I want to come back to you, Rudy, and you, Dustin. And there's 730 people on live from 39 states and 4 countries. I want you to give them one action to take out of this. Again, thinking into the next 1 week. You just heard the second secret, which is measure. Right, that's the secret. And before I bring it back over to you, my final point is, what's the danger of not doing it? Is a question I think about often. And so if you don't measure, one of the dangers is you start to rely on hope as a shooter. And so you go into the gym, and especially at a younger age, if you're just starting out, and you just kind of feel it out. And if you don't even have great fundamentals yet, all the way up to the highest levels, if you're only relying on feel and hope that your shot's improving, then you're probably not going to improve very fast, because you don't have anything, like Rudy and Dustin said, to tie back to. And so, like Dustin's massive stack of papers or notebooks, or however you would keep it in an Excel sheet, or like at our shooting colleges, we actually have a tracking sheet that we use for players. If you don't have that, you're relying on hope, and that's not the quickest way to improvement as a shooter. And so I'll transition back to Dustin. Do you want to start us off here? If you were to give one action to take in the next 1 week around this secret, what would you say?
Yeah, and this is one of our motto. We have a couple mottos with like the guys we do the NBA pre-draft with, and one of the mottos is professionals stick to a schedule, amateurs let life get in the way. And again, at this age, I don't care what age the person is listening, it's not about being the most talented, it's about being the most consistent. So what I would do is I'd pick a shooting drill that you enjoy. And again, if you ever need them, my email is dustin@pgcbasketball.com. I send some shooting workouts to athletes all the time, but the best ones you can do are normally within a similar time frame. So 2 minutes, one passer, one rebounder, one shooter. And even if it's 2 minutes on the clock, and you're going from 5 spots, and after you finish those 5 spots, start over again, see how many you can get. We call that Orion shooting. Normally, a player in high school is trying to get 21 makes in 2 minutes in Orion shooting. Again, it's 5 spots, corner, slot, top, slot, corner. And as soon as you finish, you just restart again. But even it doesn't matter what the shooting drill is. That's not the magic. The magic is the consistency of it. That's the first thing I would do.
Thanks, Dustin. Yeah, Rudy, over to you.
Yeah, I think, I'll just put back in the group chat, but I think start with where you are. I think too many times players, they get this big moment of motivation when they hear somebody speak, and they're like, oh, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to shoot 100, I'm going to shoot 200, I'm going to shoot 300, 500 a day. And then they get to day 3 and the arm feels like it's going to fall off, or they sleep through their alarm, they hit snooze too many times, and then they fail. And then because they failed, now it's like, oh, well, like I can't do this. And then they drop off. Start small, start where you're at. You can't improve a habit that you don't already have. And that's the one biggest piece of advice that I have for you. If you don't have the habit of shooting daily right now, then don't start with hundreds of shots. Start with getting to the gym. Do you have a gym that you can go to 6 to 7 days a week? And that might mean you have to piece some things together. Maybe it's the local Y, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the high school Tuesday, Thursday, right? And then somewhere else, the Salvation Army on a Sunday, whatever. But right now, if you don't have that, consistency of shooting every day, you got to, number one, find out where you can shoot every day. Then go shoot 20 shots, 30 shots, 50 shots, whatever. Just create a plan and have a plan to go and dominate that every day. And then as you build it over weeks, then you can, okay, I can add in 20 shots, I can add in 30. And in the next couple of months, you can build it to be 100, 150, 200 shot workout. Yeah. But if you try to go out there and eat the whole elephant in one bite, it's just not going to work. You got to take it one bite at a time. Go out there and just build the habit, create the habit, and then you can enhance the habit.
Can I add one tiny thing, Kyle? Because like as you do this, like Rudy says, as you do this more and more and more, you become more confident in it and you become more professional with it. And professional is like if you write down a when and a where you're going to shoot, like Rudy says, you're way more likely to do it. And as you do it more and more and you start to fall in love with it, like anything, when we work hard for something we don't care about, that's stress. When we work hard for something we do care about, that's passion. And so finding passion in the process of shooting it's a game changer. It's a really powerful thing you can do as a young athlete.
Beautiful. And I think it's the developing a love of being in the gym is one of the first things that you can do to becoming a great shooter. I've never met a great shooter that doesn't love to just go and shoot. I still love to go and shoot. It's just one of those things that was developed at a young age. And so I think building off what you both said, developing that love will lead. And so as we transition to the third secret, just want to recap. The first secret was narrow your focus. The second secret was to measure everything like a mad scientist would. And the third one is we're going to get more technical here for a moment. And we're going to talk about one simple tweak to effortlessly increase your range and accuracy. And Rudy, I'm going to pass it over to you. And obviously, there's a lot that we can talk about around mechanics and technique. And at our 2-day shooting colleges, we go into it for 12 hours over a weekend. We probably have another 30 minutes here, and there's over 37 questions in the Q&A. So we're going to get to those. Please keep putting those questions in there. We're going to save time at the end. But Rudy, I'll start it off with you in what this one simple tweak is that can increase your range and your accuracy.
Love it. So I guess I'll just start by saying this, when we talk about shooting at our shooting colleges and things like that, we talk about, being able to shoot like an athlete. So how do athletes move and generally just create power generation and things like that? There's also the art of it. Every shooter's not the same. We're not creating just, one specific shot for everybody. Everybody's shot's a little different. And then there's the scientific aspect, which is what we just talked about with the measurement. So Great shooters are great athletes, artists, and scientists. Now, what we want to talk about right now is kind of the athlete piece of it. Whenever we create power and force and want something to go in a straight line in any other sport, we tend to want to look wherever our follow through is. So if I have a baseball, right, a lot of them start tilted, they turn, they throw, and they're looking down the line. Their eyes and their follow through are in line with one another. Football, same thing. I played quarterback and they taught us how to rotate our body, follow through down the line. If you watch like professional dart players that actually just start, turn, and throw, archers, right? Riflemen, everybody that does anything in terms of power generation and getting something to go straight, they want their eyes and their follow through wherever the path of the ball or whatever it is that they're throwing to go in the same direction as their eyes. But in basketball, for a long time, we were taught 10 toes, square shoulders to the rim, and we shoot the basketball. And when we do that, our follow through, the barrel of our shot right here and our eyes are not in alignment with one another. And so to overcompensate with that, we end up doing things that cause us to be less athletic and less accurate because we have to either push with two hands, and you see a lot of two-hand shooters come in like that, or you see a lot of shooters that come across their face and push the ball to the other side because they have to try to get their arm in line with their eyes. They fight to get that alignment, but because their shoulders are square, they do so inefficiently. And so what we talk about at PGC to correct this is what we call a tilted footprint. On a tilted footprint, instead of starting with my toe square, we start tilted. And when I tilt, my eyes and my follow through can come in line with one another while also having all my momentum to go towards the basket. It's how we do things in every other sport except for basketball. And I think when we teach players how to shoot that way, the first thing I see is more power, a quicker shot, and way more accuracy with less left and right misses because their bodies are naturally in line with where they're looking. And so we call it a tilted footprint. Righties will tilt a little bit naturally to the left to get that right shoulder closer to the rim. Lefties will shoot and they'll tilt a little bit to the right, getting that left shoulder closer to the rim here. But the whole point is to get their eyes and their follow through in line with one another. And that can create a lot more consistency in a shot.
And Dustin, I'll pass it over to you in a second. But first, I want to say this. When I first heard this, I didn't actually believe it's what I did. And it's not until I started teaching our shooting college that I was taught this, even though I was doing this my entire life. And so then I saw myself on video. I was like, oh, I do that. And it is how I can shoot from farther out with greater accuracy. And so if anyone on the call right now is like, I don't think that's true. I've never seen that before. I would encourage you, and we'll pull a couple of clips up here in a moment to show you some of the best shooters doing it. I would encourage you to experiment with it. And that's one of the things, and I know as I go out and teach shooting around the country is what I encourage, experiment, because there's a lot of different ways to teach shooting and you will find a lot of different methodologies. If you come to our course, if you go to another course, there's different ways to do it. The goal at the end of the day is to have the ball go through the basket more times than it did in the past. And so as you experiment, keep an open mind is my encouragement to try things that might help the ball go in more. And this is one thing that by far, as I've taught over 1,000 players shooting, is the number one technique thing that helps players make shots faster. Just primarily a lot of times because of power generation. It gives players more power for all the reasons that you said, Rudy. And before I go any further, Dustin, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, perfect. I have a couple little things. Thinking of like shooting alignment, getting the ball to the rim, all that stuff is perfect. And where I wanted to go with it is like diagnosing your misses. Whatever you shoot in training, so say Rudy makes 8 out of 10 and catch and shoot spot up threes from the left wing. That means he'll probably shoot 40% in games. Whatever you shoot in training, it'll be 50, it'll be half that in games because there's speed, there's rigor, there's physicality, there's fatigue. All that stuff occurs. And a couple of things I've noticed this summer with athletes. A lot of basketball is a single leg lunge into a goblet squat or a single leg lunge into a squat formation. You think of a hezi pull-up. I go split step, squat, shoot. One of our power finishes at our courses, or a spin move. It's single leg, and then I get into my wide base and I shoot the basketball. A lot of players miss short because their base isn't activated. And so there are things that we can teach you, especially the shooting college, to activate the lower part of the body because that allows you to get the ball there. I nerd out on basketball because I love it so much. But if you can see, I'm sure you can on your screen, many makes go to the back line of the basket. There's a cool study that FIBA did in 2021, and it was 92% of misses were short. And so there are a bunch of ways to get the ball there. But my big one for younger athletes is you got to learn how to activate the body. So you got to be able to get on your toes when you shoot. And then number 2 is HUB, hand under ball. A lot of shooters, for some reason, if you freeze frame them, the hand is behind the basketball. It's not under the basketball. And now you get those straight line misses as opposed to the perfect arc when you shoot the basketball. A way to think about it is the basketball has an eyeball. And as the eyeball gets to its target, is it looking straight on or is it looking down? If it's looking down, you're going to get a lot more makes.
Hey, Dustin, could you pull that image up? You pulled it down so fast. We were able to see it.
Sure. Yeah, so this is it right here. It's from a guy named Sefu Bernard, coach that I really love and respect, and I met through PGC, but he calls it Brad's shooting, BRADS, which stands for back rim and down shooting. Statistically, if the ball hits the back rim, it's a higher percentage make than a swish make is if the angle of the shot is right, because you can get a left back rim make, which would go left to right, a regular back rim make, which is back and down, or a right back rim make, which goes back to left. And so those 3 angles are larger than what a swish angle would be. And so it's all about getting the basketball to past the midline of the rim to hit that back rim. And all that starts with having the toes on the ground and fighting for faster feet.
Awesome. Rudy, anything to add on that or a different take? And we also have those 2 clips that I think would be worthwhile showing, but I want to pass it to you before we go to that.
Yeah, I think there's some people that I've obviously seen this tilted footprint, but I think before we go any deeper down the rabbit hole, I think it'd be good just to make sure everybody's in alignment and has seen it. So why don't you pull those clips up and show those, and we could talk about it a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, sounds good. So see here, Kevin Durant's feet pointed more toward the baseline. All right. And as we go, Rudy.
Yep, if you pause right there. Yeah, if you could pause right there. So if you pause right here and you look at just the line of follow through, right, where his arm is, he's looking directly down, we call it like the barrel, right, or right directly down the follow through line. So if you were to look at him from the front, his right eye would disappear behind the arm because he's literally staring right down the target, versus totally square we can see in between his arms. So now his follow through and his eyes are in direct alignment. So he's looking exactly where he wants to go with the basketball. This is the advantage of the tilted footprint right here.
Let me go to a different angle here, right from the front. See it again from a different angle.
Notice and all the things that you're talking about. Now, just one small additional tip, if you kind of watch and keep playing it through, when you talk about like just the power generation of the ball, he's also, as his toes leave the ground, it's about the exact time that the ball is leaving his fingertips. So he's not jumping and hanging at the top very long. Yeah. As his toes leave the ground, the ball is leaving his finger. That's how you generate the most power from your lower body through your upper body. Because the moment your toes leave the ground, there's this thing called gravity that's pulling you back down. So your acceleration going up dissipates. And so if you wait till all the way to the top of your jump and then you shoot the basketball, you're actually just shooting a complete upper body shot at a higher length. So KD's 6'11". If you'd wait all the way to the top of his jump before he shoots the ball, he's shooting an all upper body, all arm shot at, let's say 7'6", 7'7", versus getting the power from his entire body. And when you get the power from your legs going through the basketball, you can shoot it from greater distances. And so as you watch, he's in line with the rim. He's looking down the line and he's simply letting the ball go. As soon as his toes leave the ground, the ball is leaving his fingers. So he's not jumping very high. He's just making sure that all the power generated from his legs is going through the ball at the exact moment when he is most powerful going up.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And one thing to build off that, which is so well said, Rudy, but if you look at the upper part of the body, so his shoulder, elbow, wrist, like those joint hinges, they fire and they stay fired. So his ability to be disciplined with that follow through creates consistency with his shot. And so many younger players, especially this summer, I would notice would make shots when they held the follow through, or even hold the follow through and let the arm dip, and then would change their shot 4 or 5 shots later. It's the ability to have the same form every single time. And so even when he lets the elbow drop, he's still pronating the wrist and making sure his wrist points down. It's just a great way to maximize rotation to get some softer makes at the rim.
If you could give one action, same thing as before, one action to take, how do they practice this if they're going to go experiment with it after hearing it on this call? What do they do? How do they practice it?
Yeah, 2 words: film and feel. Film and feel. So you got to film your shot, like get the angles like Katie just had. Either have somebody film you or put the phone up on something and then prop it and film it that way. You can't improve that what you measure. And so you got to actually see it so you can watch and see those, things that you're trying to change as well. And then feel. That's the artistry of shooting. Every shooter is a little bit different. And so your tilt and Katie's tilt and my tilt and Steph Curry's tilt, they're all going to be slightly different. The footwork might be slightly different. You have to figure out, at PGC, we call it like that yes feeling. That feeling where as soon as you shoot the ball, everything just feels right. It feels in sync. It feels smooth. It feels effortless. It's like as soon as you go into it, you're like, oh yeah, I bet $20 that shot's going in. And like once you find that feeling, you want to develop that feeling and rep it out so many times that you can get that YOC, that yes on command, where you can just call on it whenever you want and you can get that feeling whenever you want. And so film it so you can see it and tweak it and you can see the changes, and then focus on that feeling, find that yes feeling in your shot.
Really good. So the first secret was to narrow your focus. Rudy, thanks for sharing that. The second one was to measure like a mad scientist. And the third one, I don't think we actually specifically named it, but I would call it tilted footprint. We kind of said a lot of those words over the course of the time, tilted footprint. So we're going to go into our final bonus secret, and we're going to keep this one brief, only to about 3 minutes. We talked about a lot of these things, but I want us to bring it in and to give some final thoughts around this one thing, and then we'll answer some questions for the final few minutes. And so this one's all about how to avoid the number one mistake 99% of players make with shooting. How to avoid the number one mistake 99% of players make with shooting. And Dustin, you've seen it. You've done PGC sessions for a long time. Rudy, you as well. You both coached at a high level. We've all been there and seen this thing. And it's the lack of deliberate practice, which is the main mistake. And so, Dustin, is it okay if I come to you first and we'll go deliberate practice? What is that in your mind? And where do you see players fall short? Why does it matter so much? Take that wherever you want.
Yeah, I think deliberate practice it's a coined term from Daniel Coyle in the book. What was it? Not the culture code, the talent code. And essentially the idea is taking a skill, putting deliberate time and focus and energy into one little thing, almost mastering the mundane, if you will, and then building from that place. What's so hard about shooting, and I know that these two would agree with this as well, is you're by yourself a lot, meaning like you're in a gym, there's no one else around. But to be great at anything, the price of doing business with the gods is solitude. And if you want to be great in any realm of life, especially in the game of basketball, there are times where you need to be mastering the boring by yourself in a gym. Damian Lillard's line was like, I think it was Muhammad Ali's line first, but he would say, I won the fight long before we danced under these lights. And meaning he mastered the mundane and the darkness before. And so shooting, the deliberate practice is positioning of the toes, consistent follow through near the rim, getting the body to shoot in rhythm. It's these boring things that you spend more and more time on. So Rudy or Kyle, you want to build on that?
Yeah, Rudy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just drop in the chat here. Very well put, Dustin. I agree with everything you just said. We got the old Wooden quotes that I always throw in there for athletes as well. John Wooden, legendary coach at UCLA, had a quote, "Don't mistake activity for achievement." And so just a lot of players go out there, and that's the part that kills me. It's actually where I have a heart for young players that really want to do the right thing, but they spend all these hours in the gym, all this time, this blood, sweat, and tears, all this energy, and they're not getting the results they want, not due to effort, but due to intentionality. And they're just not deliberate. They're not working on the things that actually translate to games. They're working on skills that they don't actually use or don't actually need very frequently. And so they put all this time in and then they don't get the results they want. And it just makes me sad. And so I think this right here that we've talked about kind of hit on a lot of these different pieces, but they're on your focus kind of like point one, right? Like once you figure out what you need to do, what actually, is going to what do your workouts replicate in terms of what you do in actual games? If you can make sure that your workouts simulate what you're actually going to do in games and you rep those things out, then as you get better, you're actually going to lead to in-game translation. And so don't mistake activity for achievement. make sure that you're working on those small things like Dustin said. And if you can just be a little bit more deliberate, there's, other quotes like measure twice, cut once. If you spend a couple hours today creating your workout plan for the next 2 months, you'll be so much more efficient over the hours and hours and hours that you're going to put in, just by putting a little bit more intentionality, a little bit more deliberateness behind what you're doing right now. And so that's just what I would say. It's just don't mistake activity for achievement.
Yeah, and with the deliberate practice, this is from the book as well. You're trying to build what's called the golden second. The golden second in any sport is that aha moment when things start to click. Oh, that's how I get the ball there efficiently. That's how I pick the ball up from the right side of my body with a hezzy pull-up. But basically, to get to that spot, you got to do things slow. Slow equals smooth, smooth equals fast. And that's exactly that's what Rudy's saying, is that's how you get those 1 second aha moments.
Yeah, really good. I'm going to build on one more thing, and we're at about 5 minutes to the hour. Let's go. Are you guys cool going 8 to 10 more minutes? We'll do some Q&A in a second. Okay, Rudy and Dustin, if you would go down to the Q&A and pull it up, start looking through some of those questions. I want to give one more thing on deliberate practice, and it's this. It's something very specific that you can do. I call it 5-minute prep. Okay, I do this a lot of times when I'm like going to work out. Is I get an index card. And I just wrote 5-minute prep up here. And there's 2 things that I do on it. It's a little hard to see, I think. There we go. I put the what. So what I'm going to do. So for your shooting workout, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do my 10 shots from 5 spots. I'm being very basic right now, but let's just assume that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to also then put my focus. And my focus is really my intention. So I'm going to focus in this workout on my footwork, right? So it's my fast feet. It's getting a tilted footprint. And it's 2 things, 5-minute prep. What am I doing? And basically, how am I going to do it? If you spend 5 minutes doing that before a workout, which most of us never do, most of us just get to the gym. And when we get to the gym, we just go, all right, so what should we do today? All right. You've been there. I've been there. And I think that's what separates really okay shooters from really great shooters is they do a 5-minute prep, put some intentional thought to it, write it down on paper, have it in their pocket. And during the workout, it's either in their pocket or on the bleachers. They just take a quick peek at this. Then they go back out, and it's more focused training. It's deliberate training. It will accelerate your improvement to becoming a great shooter. And so those are 4 secrets. Let's transition here. Go to the Q&A if you have questions. We're going to start hitting some of these. Dustin and Rudy, because we have so many questions in here, we'll keep them brief, but we'll try to give as much information as we can. And then Dustin and Rudy as well, after you answer the question, just click answer live. It'll remove the question so we can keep going. You see one, Rudy?
Yeah, I just see a trend. There's a few people in here asking about my role on the team. I'm a pass first point guard, or I'm a post, or whatever the case is. And so just pulling it back to that, no matter, regardless of the position that you play, being able to catch and shoot and space the floor is an essential piece to your game if you want to play at higher levels. It's just is what it is. So you're a pass first point guard, you're going to get the offense set up. Eventually somebody's going to create an advantage. And if the ball comes to you, you have to be able to hit the open shot. If you can't space the floor and knock down open shots off a created advantage, then you are going to be a detriment to your team offensively. So regardless of your position, learning how to catch and shoot and starting there is an essential part of your game.
Good. Dustin, see one?
I've got a couple that say hey, I shoot really well in practice or by myself, and then I don't shoot well in games. A lot of times that is due to the speed at which you're training. And again, earlier we were saying whatever you make in training, you make 50% of that in games. Know what your percentages are, but then know the speed at which you're doing it. And again, one of my favorite phrases is fight for faster feet, specifically in your training. The faster the feet hit the ground, the quicker you can release the basketball. And normally the quicker the shot, the less that can go wrong. So fight for faster feet in your workouts.
Yeah, I see one right here. How do you deal with losing confidence? How do you gain it back, and how to not ever lose it? Well, number one, you're not ever going to not lose confidence. You will lose confidence. It's inevitable. If you play the game, if you do anything in life, you're going to lose confidence. A couple things. One, confidence comes from the work. That's number one. So if I'm not going to walk into a surgery tomorrow, like I'm a doctor, and do well in surgery because I've never done it before. You have to have the reps, quality reps over time to build the skill, which will give you confidence. Another very specific thing is what we mentioned earlier, measuring will give you confidence. In our shooting college, and I'm not going to go into it right now because it's going to tell you it would take a long time, is we go into an entire classroom session around confidence, around visualization, around building indestructible confidence. And so I'd encourage you, if you're a player that's like, oh, I don't have any confidence, you will benefit from spending 12 hours at a shooting college. Rudy.
Can I build off that really quickly? Because I mean, that is the one that's hit on over and over, the confidence piece. And like Kyle said, it's such a great one that we hit on. But there's a guy I like named Michael Gervais. He's a sports psychologist. And he says one of the best sentences we can say to ourselves as athletes is, I can do difficult things. And what he means by that is the human spirit is indomitable. And many players that you play with are also dealing with confidence issues. They just don't show them very well. And so the ability to stay with the course, even when you're not seeing results, I promise you, it is everything as an athlete if you want to be great in this game.
Facts. And I think something to add to that, just with the confidence piece, it's like almost every question I feel like in here is alluding to confidence in some way, shape, or form. Consistent routines lead to consistent results. And so if you want to become confident, create your routine. A lot of the greatest shooters I know are very superstitious. Like they have their routines they have to do every day. You hear the Ray Allens and the Reggie Millers talk about one of the hardest parts about retirement was the fact that they didn't have to do their shooting workout every day, but they still did it for months and even years after they got done playing because it had become so ingrained in who they were. It was like brushing their teeth. They just didn't feel right going through their day unless they had done it. And when you build these routines, you build confidence in that because you see the ball go in, you find comfort in that shot, you find comfort in your footwork and your feel. And so as younger shooters, start to develop and figure out what that routine is for you. What is the routine that gets you in that flow state, that feeling of confidence? What things do you need to do to, unlock your feet, unlock your hips, unlock your footwork, and do those every single day before you step foot on the court and start getting your real work in? What are those routines you can get into?
I'm seeing another pattern here. Let me just give one other tip around actually training. Shoot a lot with intention. Film yourself. I think Rudy mentioned it. Film yourself shooting from multiple angles. Like how do you? There's just questions around here again, around technique. Film yourself, watch it, and also this is one that I just used growing up. I found an inspiration, and so Steve Nash was my inspiration shooter. I wanted to shoot like Steve Nash. He was a great shooter. He had great tech, right, all those things. So I tried to model. Steph Curry's obviously an easy one. You could look at Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird, right? All these great shooters. And I would watch my shot, and then I'd watch their shot, and I would just experiment. What are they doing that I'm not doing? And then what can I go try to do the next time I'm shooting? Does it make a difference? No. Well, let me try something different. Does it make a difference? Yes. Double down on that. That would just be one other thing as I'm looking through this.
That was so well put, because something else to think about, like if you really get good with this thing, you'll find people that have similar body size and type and ability as you, and you should steal like an artist. Comparison is the thief of all joy when applied broadly, but comparison is the teacher of skills when applied narrowly. So you shouldn't compare points per game, minutes per game, and wins, but you should ruthlessly compare like technique and the speed at which you do something. And so if I'm the same height and weight as Kyle, which I am, I noticed that when Kyle shoots the basketball, he does a couple of things really well. Well, now I try and take those things, and it makes me much better. KD is 7 feet and shoots the ball beautifully going both ways. Kinesthetically, his knees will touch when he shoots. It's called valgus collapse. He's a beast that can produce energy differently than most human beings can. So it'd be weird for me to compare my levers to his because he's so much lengthier. So
do you really try to steal from me?
A lot, yeah. It doesn't work. I try. I'm a really good passer. I facilitate. Yeah.
I'm so honored, man.
I'm called a one more guy.
just pass the ball to us. You know what to do. Okay. Hey, let's look for a couple more. We'll go 2 more minutes here.
Yeah, I just see a couple of things on like extending range. Just a tip of the iceberg here, but just a thought for you. Power in your shot power comes from speed, not strength.
Yeah.
So it's speed.
Dwight Howard would be a good 3-point shooter.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's speed, not strength. How fast can you lift the ball and without stoppages? So a lot of times at our shooting colleges, I'll talk about 1 breath shots. Yeah. From the moment you get the ball to your set point, you have 1 breath. And within that 1 breath, the ball has to leave your fingertips. So the faster you lift it, the power from your shot comes from your speed, not how strong you are.
Exactly. And with that, there's a shooting coach I love, and I can't remember who it was, but he calls it quiet hands. And quiet hands basically just don't move laterally. And so we talk about a dip or how to get the ball to the point. But if you notice, like Rudy's saying, if the shot is quick, then it has to go from point A to point B. The moment the ball delineates from that line of the shot, now things are breaking down.
Cool. I'm gonna answer one more, and then I'll give you both the chance to answer one more in finality. Do you prefer a 2-foot hop or a 1-2 step? The short answer is yes. Okay, about a year ago, and I work on our social media, and so I was in an interaction with our PGC basketball account on Twitter, great follow by the way, and I was interacting with JJ Redick, and I asked him a footwork question. I said, what do you prefer? Do you prefer what you just asked, a 2-foot hop or a 1-foot move? And what he said was the best shooters can do it all. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting because different scenarios require different footwork at times. And so, we teach an airborne receiver, which you might call a 2-foot hop. We also teach a 1-foot move. And Dustin, let me just pass it over to you on that one, because I know you're a big footwork guy. Would you add anything to that as far as a younger player starting with a certain type of footwork?
Great question. I think it is all about learning how to economize your movement efficiently, and it's all about having educated feet. So I think dynamically, so whenever you're on the move, you're in transition, or you're coming off an action, airborne receiver is the way to go. It's really good at aligning the body and getting the ball where you want to. Stationary, so against a 2-3, or if you're a hunker down in the corner person, that's a good time to use the 1-foot move. But again, I don't like to speak in absolutes with the game, because there's so many great players that can do a multitude of things. But like Kyle said, like one of the greatest shooters the game's ever seen said, like, do both.
Yeah. Rudy, a final question from you, do you see?
Yeah, I see a lot of questions like, how many shots should I shoot a day and things like that. I think it comes down to a couple questions. Number one is, what kind of shots are you shooting? So obviously, if I'm shooting catch and shoots, I'll get a lot more of those off than I will like using a ball screen, drag, dribble, hezzy, pop, pull up. And so like if you're adding dribbles to a shot and you're shooting off the dribble, you'll just inherently get less shots in the same amount of time. So the type of shots that you're shooting will dictate how many shots you'll get on a given day. That's one, is what kind of shots are you shooting? Number two is, what time of the year is it? So am I in season versus out of season? If I'm out of season, obviously I have a lot more time. I don't need to save my legs for big games. So what kind of shots are they? What time of the year is it? Is it in season or out of season? And then last question is this: how good do you want to be? At the end of the day, that's the biggest question that you have to decide. Like, how good do you want to be? How much does it matter to you? The more shots you take, as long as they're, of quality and being intentional, and they're the shots that you're going to shoot in games, the more shots that you shoot, the more reps you get, the more in tune with that yes feeling that you'll be, the better shooter you'll become. And so more shots is just like anything else. If you do more of it, you're going to get better at it. So when it comes to how many shots should you shoot, how good do you want to get? What kind of shots, what time of year, how good do you want to be?
Yeah. Dustin, that's really good, Rudy. And Dustin, any final words before I close this with a final thought?
No, I just want to say thanks for the time, and I appreciate you guys being here. Somebody messaged me on Instagram, someone named Angie. Thank you so much. We take a lot of time to teach the game, and we really are grateful for what we do. But more than anything, we attract really good people who are hungry to get better. So we appreciate y'all for taking the time. If you ever need anything from us, please don't hesitate.
Yeah, Rudy, Dustin, appreciate you all. To everybody else, thank you for joining us. That was a ton of fun. We love to talk shooting, and we love interacting with people via Zoom and in real life. But y'all, appreciate you guys, and we'll talk soon.